As the first pale light of dawn touches the eastern horizon, the great river stirs from its nighttime slumber. Mist rises like gentle spirits from the dark waters, curling upward in wisps that catch the growing light and transform it into something magical. The Nile, ancient and eternal, begins another day as it has for countless millennia, carrying within its depths the memories of pharaohs and farmers, of queens and common folk who have walked along these very banks. The water moves with a rhythm older than human memory, a slow, steady pulse that speaks of journeys across vast distances, from the heart of Africa to the embrace of the Mediterranean Sea. Each ripple carries stories, each current holds secrets that only the river knows. In the gentle murmur of water against the reedy banks, you can almost hear the whispers of time itself. A heron stands motionless in the shallows, its long neck curved like a question mark against the lightening sky. The bird waits with infinite patience, understanding the river's ancient lesson that all good things come to those who move with the natural flow of time. Nearby, a small group of ibises picks delicately through the muddy shoreline, their curved beaks finding treasures hidden beneath the surface: small fish, tender shoots, the countless tiny lives that make their home in the river's generous embrace. The mist begins to lift as the sun climbs higher, revealing the landscape that has remained virtually unchanged for thousands of years. Palm trees lean gracefully toward the water, their fronds rustling in the gentle morning breeze that travels along the river's path. Date palms heavy with fruit stand like sentinels, their trunks scarred by time but their crowns reaching ever upward toward the warming sky. In the distance, a felicca appears through the dissipating mist, its white sail catching the early light like a prayer flag. The boat moves silently through the water, guided by hands that know every current, every shallow, every mood of this temperamental but generous river. The fisherman aboard casts his net with movements that are part dance, part ritual, the same motions his father taught him and his father's father before that. The net spreads wide like a spider's web before settling onto the surface with barely a whisper. Along the eastern bank, smoke begins to rise from small mud brick houses where families are awakening. The scent of baking bread drifts across the water, mixing with the earthy smell of the river itself and the sweet fragrance of lotus blossoms that float like stars upon the dark surface. A woman appears at the water's edge, carrying a large clay vessel on her head with the effortless grace that comes from a lifetime of practice. She kneels beside the river, dipping her jar into the cool water while murmuring a quiet greeting to the stream that has sustained her people since time began. Children's laughter echoes across the water as young ones help their parents prepare for the day's work. A boy leads a water buffalo down to the river's edge, the great beast wading contentedly into the shallows while egrets perch fearlessly upon its broad back. The scene is timeless, a living painting that could belong to any century, any millennium in the river's long memory. The water itself seems to pulse with life and memory. Schools of fish move like silver clouds beneath the surface, their movements creating gentle swirls that catch the morning light. Water hyacinths bloom in quiet backwaters, their purple flowers adding splashes of color to the green and brown palette of the riverbank. Dragonflies dance above the surface on gossamer wings, their bodies glinting like jewels in the growing warmth of the sun. As the morning progresses, the river's voice grows stronger, a gentle murmuring that speaks of patience and persistence. It tells of seasons that come and go, of floods that bring rich soil to the fields and low waters that reveal ancient treasures buried in the mud. The Nile has watched civilizations rise and fall, has carried the boats of pharaohs and the simple reed craft of fishermen with equal dignity. The sun climbs higher now, burning away the last of the morning mist and revealing the full glory of the river valley. Green fields stretch away from the water's edge, fed by the river's generous gift. Farmers wade into the shallows to fill their irrigation channels, working in harmony with the ancient rhythms that have governed life along the Nile for countless generations. In this peaceful dawn, surrounded by the gentle sounds of water and wind, bird song and human activity, the great river continues its eternal journey. The Nile flows on, carrying its precious cargo of water and memory, nurturing the land and its people as it has done since the beginning of time, and as it will continue to do long after we have become part of its ancient story. The first rays of dawn slip through the towering columns of Karnak Temple like golden fingers, casting long shadows across the polished limestone floor. The air is cool and sweet with the scent of frankincense from yesterday's ceremonies, mingling with the earthy smell of the Nile that flows just beyond the sacred walls. In this hushed sanctuary, where pharaohs once walked and priests have chanted for countless generations, young Kedi awakens to begin another peaceful day of sacred work. He rises slowly from his reed mat, stretching his arms toward the painted ceiling where stars still glisten in the pre-dawn light. His bare feet find the smooth stone, worn gentle by thousands of scribes who have walked this path before him. The temple breathes around him, ancient and alive, its massive columns reaching up like stone trees in an eternal forest. Kedi moves with quiet reverence through this space where time seems to flow differently, where each morning feels both new and as old as the pyramids themselves. At his small workstation near the eastern wall, Kedi begins the ritual of preparation that his master taught him. First, he unwraps his precious reed pens, each one cut carefully from the marshes along the riverbank. He examines them in the growing light, testing their points with gentle touches of his fingertip. The reeds are smooth and golden, hollow stems that once swayed in the Nile's gentle current, now transformed into instruments of wisdom and beauty. Next comes the grinding of pigments, a meditation in itself. Kedi takes a piece of red ochre, warm as sunset, and places it in his stone palette. The grinding stone fits perfectly in his palm, polished smooth by years of use. He works the ochre with slow, circular motions, listening to the soft whisper of stone against stone. The powder becomes fine as silk, deep red as the desert cliffs at evening. He adds a few drops of water from a clay vessel, mixing until the paint achieves the perfect consistency, not too thick, not too thin, but flowing like liquid light. The black ink requires charcoal and gum arabic, mixed with river water that still holds the memory of distant mountains. As Kedi works, he can almost hear the Nile flowing past, its eternal song weaving through the temple walls. The river has watched scribes like him for thousands of years, carrying papyrus boats and fishermen's nets, blessing the land with its life-giving floods, keeping time with the rhythm of its endless journey to the sea. With his tools prepared, Kedi settles cross-legged before his work surface. Today he will practice copying a hymn to Ra, the sun god whose light now streams warm and golden through the temple windows. But first, as his master instructed, he will warm his hand with practice strokes on pottery shards. These ostraka, fragments of broken vessels, serve as his practice tablets. Each shard tells its own small story, perhaps once part of a water jar that cooled a priest's throat, or a lamp that lit evening prayers. Kedi dips his reed pen in the black ink, feeling the familiar weight of knowledge in his hand. He begins with simple strokes, vertical lines that march across the potsherd like tiny soldiers. His breathing settles into the rhythm of his work. Inhale as the pen touches pottery, exhale as each line takes shape. The hieroglyphs emerge slowly, carefully formed. A bird for the sound A ripple of water for N, an eye that sees all truth. The temple fills gradually with the sounds of morning. Somewhere in the distance, priests begin their dawn chants, their voices low and melodious. The morning breeze stirs through the great hall, carrying the scent of lotus blossoms from the sacred pond. A cat pads silently between the columns, pausing to watch Kedi work before continuing on its mysterious temple business. As the sun climbs higher, its light transforms the stone walls from gray to gold to warm amber. Hieroglyphs carved deep in the pillars seem to dance in the shifting shadows, telling their eternal stories of gods and kings, of offerings and harvests, of the great river that gives life to all the land. Kedi feels himself part of this continuity, his careful practice strokes connecting him to scribes past and future, all of them servants of knowledge, guardians of memory. The pottery shard fills slowly with his practiced marks, each symbol a small prayer, each line a thread in the great tapestry of Egyptian wisdom. Outside, the Nile continues its ancient journey, carrying boats and birds and the dreams of a civilization that will endure long after the morning sun reaches its zenith and begins its gentle descent toward tomorrow. The morning sun rises gently over the fertile valley, painting the eastern horizon in soft shades of gold and amber. Here, where the great river curves in a lazy bend, the rich black soil spreads like a dark blanket across the fields, still damp and fragrant from the Nile's generous embrace. This is the gift of the annual flood, the sacred silt that transforms the desert's edge into a garden of abundance. Seneb moves slowly through his fields, his weathered hands running along the tall stalks of barley that sway gently in the morning breeze. Each grain head is heavy with promise, golden and full beneath the warming sun. His bare feet sink slightly into the soft earth, connecting him to the same soil his father walked and his father's father before him. The Nile watches this ancient dance, remembering 1,000 seasons of planting and harvest, each one woven into the river's endless memory. The wheat fields stretch beyond the barley, their green shoots reaching toward the cloudless sky. Seneb pauses to examine the growth, his experienced eye noting the healthy color, the sturdy stems, the way the morning dew catches the light like tiny pearls scattered across the field. A gentle irrigation canal carries the river's water between the planted rows, gurgling softly as it flows, bringing life to every corner of the cultivated land. From the date palms that border the fields comes the sound of laughter. Seneb's children have climbed high into the feathery fronds, their small hands carefully gathering the sweet fruit that hangs in heavy clusters. The dates are deep brown and plump, ready for harvest. The children's voices drift down like music, mixing with the soft whisper of palm fronds moving in the breeze. Their mother, Nebet, calls up gentle reminders to be careful, to choose only the ripest fruit, her voice warm with affection. Nebet sits in the shade of the largest palm, her fingers working skillfully with the long reeds she gathered from the river's edge at dawn. The reeds are supple and green, perfect for weaving. Her hands move in an ancient rhythm, over and under, creating the strong, beautiful baskets that will hold grain and dates, bread and fish. She learned this craft from her own mother, who learned it from hers, an unbroken chain of knowledge that flows like the river itself through generations. The Nile remembers when the first farmers discovered the magic of the flooding season, when they learned to read the river's moods and trust in its yearly gift of fertile mud. Season after season, the great river has carried the rich soil from the highlands far to the south, depositing it here in this valley where the desert meets the water. The river has watched civilizations rise and flourish on this foundation of black earth and flowing water. A pair of ibis birds wade carefully through the shallow water at the field's edge, their long curved beaks probing the mud for small fish and insects. Their white feathers gleam in the sunlight, and they move with careful dignity, as if they know they are sacred birds protected and revered. The river provides for them too, just as it provides for Seneb and his family, just as it has always provided. The morning air is filled with the scent of growing things, the green smell of wheat and barley, the earthy richness of wet soil, the sweet fragrance of date blossoms. Somewhere in the distance, a farmer's song drifts across the fields, an old melody about the river's blessing, sung in a voice weathered by sun and time. The words speak of gratitude, of the eternal cycle of flood and harvest, of the river that gives life to the land. As the sun climbs higher, Seneb's oldest son joins him in the fields, learning to judge the readiness of the grain, to feel the soil's moisture with his hands, to read the subtle signs that tell when the time for harvest is near. The boy listens carefully to his father's gentle teaching, absorbing knowledge that is older than the pyramids, wisdom that flows like the river from father to son. The Nile continues its patient journey northward, carrying the hopes and dreams of countless farmers like Seneb. The river remembers the first seedling that pushed through the rich mud, the first harvest celebration, the first prayer of thanksgiving offered to the water that makes all life possible. In the gentle lapping of waves against the muddy bank, in the soft gurgle of irrigation water flowing through the channels, the river whispers its eternal promise that as long as the Nile flows, the black earth will bloom and the fields will feed the children of Egypt. The morning peace settles over the farmland like a blessing, complete and eternal, as the ancient river flows on toward the sea. The morning sun filters through the open doorway of Amenemheb's workshop, casting long golden rectangles across the earthen floor. Dust motes dance lazily in the warm light, settling gently on rows of clay vessels that line the wooden shelves. The air carries the rich, earthy scent of wet clay mingled with the sweet fragrance of lotus blossoms drifting up from my banks just beyond the workshop walls. Amenemheb sits cross-legged before his potter's wheel, his weathered hands moving with the practiced grace of 30 years at this craft. His fingers are permanently stained with clay, the lines of his palms etched deep with the red earth that has become part of him. The wheel turns slowly, steadily, powered by the gentle pressure of his foot against the wooden disc below. Between his palms, a lump of river clay begins its transformation. He has drawn this clay from my banks at dawn when the silt was perfect, not too wet from the night's moisture, not too dry from yesterday's sun. The clay remembers my touch, remembers the journey from the distant highlands where it was born, carried grain by grain through countless seasons until it settled in the quiet shallows near his workshop. The wheel whispers as it turns, a soft, rhythmic sound that blends with the gentle lapping of water against the nearby reeds. Amenemheb's breathing is slow and measured, matching the rhythm of his work. His eyes are half closed, not from fatigue, but from the deep concentration that comes only with complete mastery. He feels the clay's response to every subtle pressure, every gentle coaxing of his fingers. The vessel begins to emerge as if it had always existed within the clay, waiting patiently to be revealed. First, a broad base takes shape, solid and sure. Then walls begin to rise, spiraling upward like the gentle current of my waters during the flood season. The potter's thumb creates a hollow in the center, deepening it slowly, carefully, allowing the clay to guide him as much as he guides it. Young Kaimwesit watches from the corner, his own small hands mimicking the master's movements in the air. He has been Amenemheb's apprentice for 2 seasons now, and still he marvels at the way clay becomes pottery, the way earth becomes art. His eager eyes follow every motion, every subtle shift of pressure that transforms the shapeless into the beautiful. Feel the clay's spirit, Amenemheb murmurs without opening his eyes, his voice barely audible above the wheel's gentle hum. It wishes to hold water, to serve, to endure. We simply help it remember its purpose. The workshop holds other treasures of the potter's art, water jars tall as a man's waist, their surfaces smooth as polished stone, delicate oil lamps with graceful spouts, shallow bowls perfect for holding bread or dates. Each piece bears the subtle marks of Amenemheb's hands, slight irregularities that speak of human touch rather than mechanical precision. As the morning progresses, the vessel under his hands grows taller, its walls thinning but never weakening. The clay is warm now from the friction of shaping, warm from the potter's touch, warm from the sun that streams through the doorway. Steam rises almost imperceptibly from the spinning clay, carrying with it the scent of creation itself. Kaimwesit fetches fresh clay from the baskets near the door, clay that still holds the coolness of dawn and my waters. He kneads it carefully, as he has been taught, working out air bubbles that could crack the pottery in the firing. His young hands are growing stronger each day, developing the particular strength that potters need, not the harsh grip of a warrior, but the patient, enduring pressure of one who shapes the earth itself. The finished vessel, a graceful water jar with a slightly flared rim, sits cooling in the shadows. Tomorrow, when the clay has dried to leather hardness, Amenemheb will trim its base, perfecting its proportions. In 3 days, it will join others in the kiln, emerging transformed by fire into something that will endure for generations. I have watched countless potters work along my banks, their wheels turning in rhythm with my eternal flow. Each vessel they create carries within it something of my essence, the silt that formed its clay, the water that shaped it, the patient wisdom of the river that knows all things come to pass in their proper time. The afternoon heat builds slowly, and Amenemheb covers the new jar with a damp cloth, protecting it from too rapid drying. His work for today is complete, another small act of creation finished with the same quiet satisfaction that marks all true craftsmen. The wheel grows still, and the workshop settles into peaceful silence, ready for tomorrow's patient transformations. The morning sun filters through the towering stone columns of the temple, casting gentle shadows across the sacred gardens that stretch toward the Nile's embracing waters. Here, where the river has witnessed countless dawns, the priests of the temple move with the unhurried grace of those who understand that time flows like water itself, endless, patient, eternal. Brother Kenti steps carefully along the narrow pathways between the raised beds, his bare feet silent on the smooth stones worn soft by generations before him. In his weathered hands, he carries a clay vessel filled with river water, still cool from the early morning draw. The lotus pools reflect the golden light like mirrors of liquid amber, their surface barely disturbed by the gentle current that connects them to their mother river. The sacred blue lotus flowers float serenely, their petals just beginning to unfold with the growing warmth. Some blooms rest closed still, waiting for the sun to coax them open with tender fingers of light. Brother Kenti pauses beside each pool, pouring the life-giving water in a slow, ceremonial circle. The ripples spread outward in perfect rings, carrying his blessing to every corner of the sacred space. Near the temple walls, rows of medicinal herbs create a tapestry of green in countless shades. The priests have tended these same varieties for hundreds of years, their knowledge passed down like precious seeds from teacher to student. Sweet marjoram releases its gentle fragrance as Brother Kenti's fingers brush the leaves, checking for new growth. The fennel stands tall and proud, its feathery fronds dancing in the morning breeze that carries the river's song. From somewhere in the garden comes the soft sound of pruning, the careful snip of bronze shears as Brother Amenemheb tends to the fig trees near the eastern wall. Each cut is considered, each branch examined with the patience of one who serves both the gods and the growing things. The morning light catches in his gray beard as he works, his movements deliberate and sure. The bees have arrived with the warming air, their ancient compact with the flowers renewed each day as the sun climbs higher. They move from bloom to bloom with purposeful devotion, their gentle humming creating a living prayer that rises with the incense from the temple proper. A worker bee lands on a white lotus blossom, her legs heavy with pollen, and for a moment the flower becomes a throne for this smallest of the temple's servants. Brother Kenti sets down his water vessel and kneels beside a patch of newly planted coriander. His fingers work the dark earth gently, loosening the soil around the tender green shoots. The earth is rich here, fed by the river's annual gifts and the careful composting of the priests. It crumbles satisfyingly in his hands, dark and full of promise. The sound of flowing water provides a constant, soothing accompaniment to the morning's work. Small channels carved into the stone floor carry the Nile's bounty throughout the garden, ensuring that every plant receives its measure of the sacred water. The channels gurgle softly as they divide and rejoin, creating an intricate network that mirrors the river's own delta far to the north. As the sun climbs higher, more priests join the morning ritual. They move among the plants like dancers in a slow, sacred choreography, each knowing his role without words. Brother Ineni tends to the herb spiral near the central fountain, his hands gentle as he harvests chamomile flowers for the afternoon's temple ceremonies. The blossoms fall into his woven basket like tiny suns, their sweet scent mingling with the river-freshened air. In the shade of the date palms, young acolytes sit cross-legged, grinding herbs with mortars of smooth granite. The rhythmic sound of stone on stone adds percussion to the garden's symphony, while the boys learn the sacred properties of each plant through the ancient method of repetition and reverence. The lotus pools shimmer as fish rise to the surface, their scales catching the light like scattered coins. These sacred fish, descendants of those blessed by pharaohs long past, glide through the clear water with lazy contentment. They know they are safe here, in this place where the river's memory holds all creatures dear. As the morning ritual draws toward its gentle close, Brother Kenti stands once more and lifts his empty vessel. The garden around him hums with quiet life, the bees at their work, the water in its channels, the priests in their timeless devotion. The Nile flows past the temple walls, carrying with it the blessing of another dawn in this sacred place where earth, water, and sky meet in perfect harmony. The temple gardens rest in peace, tended and blessed, while the eternal river keeps its faithful watch. The morning sun casts long shadows across the sandy bank, where Kamwesit kneels beside his carefully sorted bundles of papyrus reeds. His weathered hands move slowly over the green stalks, selecting each one with the patience of a man who has spent decades learning the river's gifts. The Nile watches quietly, its ancient waters lapping softly against the shore, carrying with it the memory of countless boats that have been born from these same reeds. Kamwesit's fingers trace the length of a particularly straight reed, feeling for the subtle variations in thickness that will determine its place in the boat he is crafting. The papyrus plants were cut 3 days ago from the marshy shallows upstream, where they grow tall and strong in the rich black mud. He has let them dry just enough to become pliable, but not so much that they lose their natural oils. This is knowledge passed down from his grandfather's grandfather, whispered instructions that flow like the river itself through generations of boat builders. The craftsman begins to separate the reeds into bundles, his movements deliberate and unhurried. The morning air is cool and sweet, carrying the scent of water and growing things. Somewhere in the distance, a fisherman's wife hums a gentle melody as she mends nets, her voice blending with the soft whisper of reeds against reeds. Kamwesit works in this peaceful soundscape, his breathing steady and calm, matching the rhythm of the river's eternal flow. He starts with the hull, the heart of the vessel that will cradle the fisherman and his catch. Taking the thickest, strongest reeds, he begins to bind them together with rope made from twisted papyrus fiber. His technique is ancient. Each wrap of the rope follows patterns learned in childhood, each knot tied with the muscle memory of countless boats before this one. The bundles grow longer and more substantial under his careful attention, transforming from individual plants into the skeleton of something that will dance with the Nile's currents. The sun climbs higher, warming Kamwesit's back as he works. Sweat beads on his forehead, but he pays it no mind. Time moves differently here beside the river, measured not in hours but in the completion of tasks, the satisfaction of work well done. He shapes the bow of the boat with special care, curving the bound reeds upward in a graceful arc that will cut through the water like a bird in flight. The Nile seems to approve, sending a gentle breeze that ruffles the half-finished craft. As the morning progresses, other villagers pass by on their daily errands. Children pause to watch the boat take shape, their eyes wide with wonder at the transformation happening before them. An old woman stops to share tea with Kamwesit, her presence a comfortable companionship in the focused quiet of his work. They speak little, understanding that some labors are best accompanied by silence and the soft sounds of the river. The boat's sides begin to rise now, each layer of reeds carefully positioned and bound. Kamwesit's hands move with sure confidence, occasionally pausing to test the flexibility of his work to ensure that the vessel will bend with the water rather than fight against it. This is the secret of papyrus boats. They must be strong enough to carry their burden, yet flexible enough to move with the river's moods. Like the reeds themselves, swaying in the current, they survive by yielding. The afternoon light grows golden as Kamwesit begins to shape the stern of his craft. His movements have grown even more meditative now, each action flowing into the next like water over stones. The boat beneath his hands is no longer a collection of reeds, but something alive, something that already seems to yearn for the water's embrace. He can envision it gliding across the Nile's surface, carrying a fisherman to the deeper channels where the fish run thick and silver. As the day draws toward evening, Conway-sit steps back to survey his progress. The boat is nearly complete now, its graceful form reflecting the ancient wisdom of those who first learned to work with the river's gifts. Tomorrow he will add the final touches, the small details that mark the difference between a vessel and a work of art. But for now, he is content to sit beside his creation, listening to the eternal song of the Nile, feeling the deep satisfaction that comes from honest work well done. The river flows past, carrying with it the dreams of the boat that will soon join the countless others that have plied these waters since time began. In its gentle current lies the memory of every craftsman who has ever knelt on these banks, every boat that has ever been born from the marriage of human skill and nature's bounty. The morning sun casts long, golden ribbons across the Nile's surface as Kenty guides his trading vessel into the gentle current. The boat, carved from sturdy sycamore wood and painted in deep blues and whites, sits low in the water under the weight of precious cargo. Clay jars filled with barley and wheat are secured with rope nets, while bolts of pristine linen cloth rest beneath protective canvas. The pottery, each piece carefully wrapped in soft reed mats, gleams with the distinctive red and black glazes that mark them as treasures from the northern workshops. The river accepts the vessel into its embrace, and immediately you feel the ancient rhythm that has carried countless merchants along this same path for thousands of years. The water flows with purpose, neither hurried nor hesitant, carrying the boat downstream toward the markets of distant villages. Kenty's weathered hands rest lightly on the steering oar, reading the river's subtle messages through the wood. Behind him, his young apprentice Amenhotep arranges the cargo one final time, checking each rope and securing each precious bundle. The boy moves with the careful precision of someone who understands that this journey represents months of preparation, countless hours of crafting and trading, and the livelihood of several families back in their home village. As the boat settles into the river's steady rhythm, other vessels appear on the water around them. A fisherman's reed boat glides past, its occupant raising a hand in the universal greeting of river travelers. Further upstream, a larger grain barge makes its way north, loaded with the harvest from southern fields. Each boat carries its own story, its own hopes, its own connection to the eternal flow of the Nile. The morning air carries the scent of lotus blossoms and fresh papyrus. Along the eastern bank, date palms sway gently in the breeze, their fronds creating shifting patterns of light and shadow on the water below. The sound of the river moving around the boat's hull is soft and constant, a liquid whisper that speaks of patience and endurance. Kenty begins to tell his apprentice about the villages they will visit, his voice low and measured like the water itself. He speaks of Hassan, the potter in the third village, who always asks for news from the northern workshops. He describes the weaver Nefret, whose fingers can create cloth so fine it seems woven from moonbeams, and who trades her work for the deep blue pigments that come from far upstream. The stories flow as gently as the river, each one connecting this journey to countless others, linking trader to craftsman, village to village, in an endless web of commerce and community that has sustained life along the Nile since memory began. Above them, 3 herons appear as if summoned by the peaceful nature of the journey. Their wings beat slowly, almost lazily, as they keep pace with the boat. Their long necks curve gracefully, and their keen eyes watch the water for fish disturbed by the vessel's passing. The birds seem to understand that they are part of an ancient procession, guardians and witnesses to the river's endless generosity. Amenhotep watches the herons with wonder, and Kenty smiles, remembering his own first journey as a boy. The old merchant reaches into a small basket and pulls out flatbread and dried dates, sharing the simple meal with his apprentice as the boat continues its unhurried progress downstream. The sun climbs higher, warming the air without making it uncomfortable. A gentle breeze rises from the north, filling the small sail and giving the boat additional speed. The canvas flutters softly, creating a rhythmic sound that blends with the water's whisper and the distant calls of ibis birds from the marshlands. As they round a gentle bend, new vistas open before them. Green fields stretch away from the riverbank, dotted with the white shapes of cattle and the moving figures of farmers tending their crops. Palm groves cluster near the water's edge, their roots drinking deeply from the life-giving river. In the distance, the geometric shapes of mud brick buildings catch the light, promising the warmth of human community and the excitement of trade. The pottery shifts gently in its wrappings as the boat adjusts to a slight change in current. The grain makes soft, rustling sounds in its containers. The linen remains perfectly still, protected and patient, waiting to be transformed into clothing that will comfort and beautify lives in villages yet unseen. The river continues its eternal journey, carrying the merchant's boat with the same gentle care it has shown to countless generations before. Each moment flows into the next like water itself, creating a seamless tapestry of travel, trade, and human connection that forms the very heart of life along the ancient Nile. The herons call softly overhead, their voices joining the river's endless song of patience, persistence, and the quiet joy found in journeys taken with trust and gratitude. As the first light of dawn touches the water's surface, the ancient Nile begins to stir with gentle purpose. Along its banks, the village market awakens like a flower opening to the morning sun. Canvas awnings unfurl in waves of deep blue and warm terracotta, creating pools of shade that dance with the river's own shadows. The water watches, as it has for countless centuries, as this daily ritual of commerce and community begins once more. The fishermen arrive first, their boats gliding silently across the mirror-like surface. Their nets, heavy with the night's catch, sparkle with droplets that catch the golden light. Silver fish flash in woven baskets as weathered hands arrange them with practiced care. The river remembers these same hands as young and smooth, just as it remembers their fathers and grandfathers performing this same morning dance. Slowly, the market comes alive with gentle voices. Vendors greet each other with warm smiles and familiar words, their conversations flowing like tributaries joining the main current. A woman spreads brilliant orange marigolds across her wooden table, their petals still damp with dew. Next to her, an elderly man carefully arranges pottery, each piece shaped by hands that learned their craft from the very clay of the riverbank. Children begin to appear, darting between the stalls like minnows through reeds. Their laughter mingles with the soft lapping of water against the stone steps. They pause to admire baskets overflowing with dates, figs, and pomegranates, their eyes wide with wonder at the abundance. The river smiles in its ancient way, remembering when their parents played these same games in this same place. The morning sun climbs higher, painting everything in shades of honey and amber. Customers begin to arrive, their bare feet padding softly on the worn stone pathways. A young mother examines bolts of linen, running her fingers along the smooth fabric while her baby sleeps peacefully in her arms. The merchant speaks in low, respectful tones, understanding that some moments require gentleness above all else. At the spice stall, aromatic clouds drift on the warm breeze. Cinnamon bark and cardamom pods rest in shallow baskets, their scents weaving together like an invisible tapestry. The river carries these fragrances downstream, sharing the market's gifts with villages yet to wake. An old woman selects her spices carefully, her movements deliberate and sure, guided by decades of creating meals that nourish both body and soul. The pottery vendor arranges his wares with the patience of one who understands that beauty cannot be rushed. Water jugs and grain bowls sit in neat rows, their surfaces smooth as river stones. Each piece bears the subtle marks of its maker's hands, small imperfections that speak of human touch in a world of endless perfection. A customer lifts a small oil lamp, feeling its weight, imagining the warm light it will cast in her home. Fresh bread arrives on wooden trays, still warm from the ovens. The baker's apprentice, barely old enough to carry such precious cargo, moves with careful steps. Steam rises from the golden loaves like morning mist from the water's surface. The river remembers the grain that grew in fields blessed by its annual floods, now transformed into sustenance through human hands and ancient knowledge. As the day progresses, the market settles into its comfortable rhythm. Conversations flow like gentle currents between strangers who become friends over shared meals of flatbread and fish. Children nap in the shade while their mothers bargain for household goods with smiles and patient negotiation. The river watches it all with timeless contentment, this eternal dance of giving and receiving, speaking and listening, buying and selling. The sun reaches its peak, and the market begins its slow, peaceful transformation toward afternoon rest. Vendors pack their remaining goods with the same care they used to display them. The children gather around a storyteller who speaks of distant lands and gentle adventures, their voices creating a soft harmony with the river's eternal song. As shadows grow longer and the heat of the day begins to fade, the market prepares for its afternoon slumber. The awnings flutter gently in the river breeze, and the last customers make their final purchases with unhurried deliberation. The Nile continues its journey, carrying with it the sounds and scents and stories of another peaceful day at the village market, adding them to its endless collection of human memories held safe in its flowing embrace. The sun has climbed higher now, casting long golden beams through the narrow window of Nefret's workshop. Here, in this cool stone chamber tucked away from the bustling marketplace, the ancient art of weaving unfolds with the same patient rhythm it has followed for countless generations. The river Nile, flowing just beyond these walls, seems to pause and listen to the gentle symphony of the loom. Nefret sits cross-legged before her wooden frame, her weathered hands moving with the fluid grace of water itself. The loom before her is a masterpiece of simple engineering, vertical wooden posts supporting horizontal bars, creating a framework that has remained unchanged since the time of the first pharaohs. Stretched between these supports, hundreds of fine linen threads catch the morning light like tiny golden strings of a celestial harp. The shuttle passes through the warp with a soft whisper, carrying the weft thread from side to side in an endless dance. Thrum, 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 the beater presses each new row into place, creating a rhythm as steady and comforting as a mother's heartbeat. The sound echoes gently off the stone walls, mixing with the distant calls of ibises and the soft lapping of the river against the nearby quay. Young Kedi kneels beside her mother, her dark eyes wide with concentration as she watches the intricate pattern emerge. At 12 summers, she is just beginning to understand the mysteries hidden within the crossing threads. Her small fingers trace the growing fabric, feeling the smoothness of the finest linen, threads spun from flax that grew along these very riverbanks, watered by the Nile's generous floods. "See how the pattern flows like the river itself," Nefret murmurs, her voice soft as silk. "Each thread must find its place, supporting all the others. The weave is strong because no single strand tries to carry the whole burden alone." Her fingers never pause in their work as she speaks, muscle memory guiding the shuttle through its appointed path. The workshop smells of clean linen and the faint sweetness of the acacia wood from which the loom is carved. Dust motes dance in the slanted sunbeams, spinning and swirling like tiny desert whirlwinds. The walls are lined with baskets holding skeins of thread in various stages of preparation, some still rough and fibrous, others spun fine as spider silk. Kedi reaches for a basket of prepared flax, running the pale fibers through her fingers. "Tell me again about great-grandmother's pattern," she whispers, settling more comfortably on her reed mat. This is their morning ritual, the stories that accompany the weaving, passed down like precious jewels from mother to daughter through the generations. Nefret's eyes soften as she continues her work. "Your great-grandmother Seneptefai learned this pattern from the weavers in the Temple of Isis," she begins, her voice taking on the cadence of ancient memory. It represents the river's journey from the southern cataracts to the Great Green Sea. See these diagonal lines. They are the current, always flowing, never resting. And these small diamond shapes, they are the islands where the sacred ibises nest. The shuttle glides back and forth, each pass adding another thin line to the growing tapestry. The fabric emerging under Nefret's skilled hands is destined for the household of a wealthy merchant, fine enough to drape the shoulders of nobility, yet sturdy enough to last through many seasons of wear. Outside, the river continues its eternal journey, carrying silt and seeds, fish and birds, dreams and memories. The water has witnessed this same scene countless times, mothers teaching daughters, hands shaping thread into cloth, patterns flowing from one generation to the next like the river itself flows from south to north. The morning light shifts, moving across the workshop floor in its slow arc. Somewhere in the distance, a donkey brays softly, and the sound of pottery wheels spinning mingles with the loom's gentle rhythm. A cat appears in the doorway, stretching luxuriously before padding silently across the room to curl up in a pool of warm sunlight. Ketty yawns, lulled by the peaceful atmosphere and the hypnotic motion of the shuttle. Her eyelids grow heavy as she watches her mother's hands work their quiet magic, transforming simple thread into something beautiful and lasting. The pattern grows row by row, line by line, as patient and persistent as the river that has carved its channel through the desert for thousands of years. In this timeless moment, surrounded by the tools and traditions of their ancestors, mother and daughter continue the ancient dance of creation. The river Nile flows on, carrying with it the memory of all the weavers who have sat at looms like this one, their skilled hands preserving the patterns and stories that connect the present to the distant past. The morning mist rises from the Nile like the breath of sleeping gods, wrapping the ancient river in veils of silver and gold. In a weathered papyrus boat that rocks gently with the current, old Ta sits with his grandson Kamwesit, their fishing nets folded beside them like sleeping serpents. The boy's eyes are wide with wonder as his grandfather's weathered hands trace invisible patterns in the air, teaching him to read the river's many moods. "See how the water moves here, little one," Ta whispers, his voice carrying the wisdom of 60 seasons spent upon these sacred waters. The way it swirls and eddies near the reed beds tells us where the fish gather to feed. The Nile speaks to those who know how to listen. His finger points to a subtle change in the water's surface, where tiny ripples dance differently than elsewhere. Kamwesit leans forward, his small hands gripping the boat's edge as he tries to see what his grandfather sees. The water looks the same to him, dark and mysterious, reflecting the pale morning sky like polished bronze. But Ta's eyes hold decades of accumulated knowledge, each wrinkle around them mapping years of patient observation. "When I was your age," the old fisherman continues, "my grandfather taught me these same secrets beside these very waters. He showed me how the color of the silt tells us about the rains far to the south, how the movement of the water birds signals changes in the current, how even the direction of the lotus petals floating downstream carries messages from the river's heart." The boat drifts slowly past a grove of date palms whose fronds whisper secrets to the morning breeze. Ibis wade in the shallows, their long necks curved like question marks as they probe the muddy bottom for small fish and insects. A gentle splash draws their attention to where a hippopotamus surfaces briefly, its massive head emerging like a living island before disappearing again into the depths. Ta's gnarled hand reaches into the water, cupping some of the precious liquid and letting it run through his fingers like liquid amber. "Feel the temperature, grandson. Cool now, but it will warm as Ra climbs higher in his celestial boat." The fish know this rhythm better than any sundial. They move deeper when the sun grows strong, closer to the surface as shadows lengthen. The old man's voice carries the hypnotic cadence of countless stories told and retold. The Nile remembers everything Kamwesit. Every flood that has blessed our lands, every drought that tested our patience, every boat that has traveled these waters since the first pharaohs ruled. We are but brief visitors in the river's long memory, Yet if we show respect and learn carefully, she will share her bounty with us. Kaimwesit nods solemnly, though his young mind can barely grasp the vast spans of time his grandfather speaks of. He watches a floating log drift past, carried by currents invisible to his inexperienced eye, while water birds call to each other across the peaceful expanse. The secret, Ta continues, adjusting their position with a single expert stroke of his paddle, is not to take more than you need and always to give thanks. The Nile provides for those who understand her rhythms. She shows us when the fish are ready to be caught, when the waters are safe for travel, when the floods will come to nourish our fields. As they sit in comfortable silence, the sun climbs higher, painting the river's surface with dancing points of light. Dragonflies dart between the reeds, their iridescent wings catching the strengthening rays. Somewhere in the distance, a farmer's song drifts across the water as he tends his irrigation channels, his voice blending with the eternal murmur of the flowing river. The old fisherman reaches for his net, but his movements are unhurried, respectful. Today we will catch enough for our family's meal, perhaps a little extra for the widow Henutson next door. The river will provide what we need, no more, no less. This is the way of the wise fisherman, the path my grandfather taught me, and now I teach you. Kaimwesit watches intently as his grandfather prepares the net, every gesture deliberate and reverent. The boy understands that he is witnessing more than fishing technique. He is being initiated into an ancient relationship between human and river, a covenant written in water and sealed with generations of respectful gratitude. The Nile flows on, eternal and patient, carrying their small boat like a blessing upon her surface. In her depths, she holds the wisdom of ages, sharing her secrets with those humble enough to listen, generous enough to give thanks, and wise enough to take only what they truly need. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the mist still clings to my waters like gossip whispered between reeds, I watch the sacred ibis wade into my shallows. Her movements are deliberate, almost ceremonial, as if she knows the weight of reverence she carries upon her white and black feathers. The ancient Egyptians see in her form the earthly embodiment of Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing, and as I observe her patient hunting, I understand why. She steps with the measured grace of a scribe approaching papyrus, each footfall creating gentle ripples that spread outward in perfect circles. The water around her ankles is crystal clear in the early light, revealing the sandy bottom where small fish dart between patches of swaying river grass. Her curved black beak moves like a reed pen, dipping and probing with practiced precision, seeking the silver flash of breakfast beneath the surface. The temple behind her rises from my eastern bank like a prayer made of stone. Its columns catch the first rays of sunlight, casting long shadows across the water that dance with the movement of my gentle current. Priests have already begun their morning rituals, and the soft sound of their chanted hymns drifts across the water, mixing with the quiet splash of the ibis and the whispered songs of the wind through the papyrus. I have watched countless generations of these sacred birds, and each one teaches me something about patience. This ibis freezes suddenly, her neck extended, yellow eyes fixed on a point beneath the water where I can see the subtle movement of a small perch. As she waits and waits, the fish swims closer, unaware of the elegant predator above. Time seems suspended in this moment, as if the entire river holds its breath. With a movement swift yet graceful, she strikes. The beak disappears beneath my surface and emerges triumphant, a silvery fish caught crosswise in her grasp. She tilts her head back and swallows, and I feel a deep satisfaction flow through me. This is the ancient rhythm, the sacred dance of predator and prey that has played out along my banks since the first dawn painted the sky above Egypt. As the sun climbs higher, painting the eastern sky in shades of gold and rose, other water birds begin to stir. A pair of cattle egrets arrive, their pure white plumage glowing in the morning light. They station themselves at different points along the shallows, each claiming their own small territory for hunting. A night heron, still drowsy from its nocturnal activities, picks its way carefully through the reeds, its stocky form a contrast to the ibis's elegant silhouette. The sacred ibis moves deeper into the water, and I cradle her feet with gentle currents. She seems to glide rather than walk, her reflection creating a perfect mirror image that wavers and shifts with each tiny ripple. Fish swim beneath her, their schools parting and reforming like clouds moving across an underwater sky. She watches them all with those bright, intelligent eyes, calculating, choosing, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. From the temple comes the sweet scent of burning incense, frankincense, and myrrh mixing with the natural perfumes of my waters, the green smell of healthy plants, the rich earthiness of fertile mud, the clean freshness that rises when sunlight first touches the river. The ibis pauses in her hunting to preen, running her beak through the feathers of her breast with meticulous care. Even this simple act carries grace, each movement deliberate and purposeful. A gentle breeze stirs the surface of the water, creating tiny wavelets that catch and scatter the growing light. The ibis's hunting grounds become a shimmering canvas of gold and blue, where reality and reflection blend until it seems she walks through liquid light itself. Other birds have joined the morning's quiet symphony, the soft trill of a kingfisher, the rustle of wings as a heron adjusts its position, the distant call of geese flying high overhead. The sacred ibis takes one more fish, a larger one this time, and I watch as she handles it with the same careful precision. There is something deeply peaceful about her presence, something that speaks to the eternal rhythms that govern all life along my banks. As the morning progresses and the temple awakens fully to the day's activities, she begins to make her way toward shore, her hunting complete. She steps onto the muddy bank with delicate care, shakes the water from her feathers, and stands for a moment looking out over my flowing waters. In that moment, I feel the connection between all things, the sacred and the natural, the eternal and the temporary, the wisdom of gods and the simple grace of a bird finding breakfast in the shallows of an ancient river that has witnessed the birth and passing of countless civilizations. The sun has climbed to its throne in the endless azure sky, casting everything below in a blanket of golden warmth. Along the banks of the ancient Nile, the morning's bustling energy has given way to something softer, more contemplative. The great river continues its eternal journey northward, but even its waters seem to flow with a gentler rhythm now, as if understanding that this is a time for rest. Beneath the graceful fronds of date palms, workers have gathered in small clusters, their bare feet grateful for the cool earth that remains shaded. Clay jars, rounded and smooth from countless hands, hold precious water drawn from the river at dawn when it was still sweet with the night's coolness. The liquid inside remains refreshingly cool, protected by the thick earthen walls that have absorbed the wisdom of generations of potters. Each sip brings relief, the water tasting of the river's ancient memory, of distant mountains and seasonal rains, of the journey through countless leagues of fertile land. A farmer sets down his wooden hoe and wipes his brow with a strip of linen, his weathered hands steady and sure. His field of barley stretches behind him, the young green shoots already showing promise of the harvest to come. He settles against the broad trunk of a sycamore tree, its bark warm against his back, and watches the river's surface catch fragments of sunlight like scattered coins. The tree's leaves whisper softly overhead, creating a natural canopy that filters the harsh light into dappled patterns of gold and green. Further along the bank, a woman tends to her children under the spreading shade of an acacia. The little ones have been playing with toy boats carved from reed, sailing them in the shallow pools where the river has carved gentle inlets. Now they rest beside her, their small bodies warm and drowsy in the afternoon heat. She braids palm fronds with patient, practiced movements, her fingers working from memory while her eyes follow the hypnotic flow of the water. The rhythm of her work matches the river's pulse, steady, eternal, soothing. A fisherman has drawn his papyrus boat up onto the muddy shore, the morning's catch already cleaned and salted for the market. He lies back against the curved hull, his net spread beside him for mending later when the shadows grow longer. His eyes are closed, but he is not truly sleeping, rather, he is listening. listening to the water's quiet murmur as it moves around the reeds, to the distant call of an ibis somewhere in the marshes, to the gentle lapping of tiny waves against the riverbank. These are the sounds that have filled his ears since childhood, as familiar and comforting as his mother's lullabies. The great river itself seems to understand this moment of pause. Its surface, usually rippled by the morning breeze, has grown smooth and mirror-like, reflecting the palm trees and the endless sky with perfect clarity. Lotus blossoms float serenely in the quieter backwaters, their white petals pristine against the dark water, opening fully to embrace the midday sun. A heron stands motionless in the shallows, its reflection creating a perfect double image, as if the bird exists in both worlds, the world above and the dreaming world below the surface. Even the wind has stilled, allowing the scents of the river to settle like invisible blankets over the landscape. The green smell of growing things mingles with the warm earthiness of sun-baked mud, while the faint sweetness of blooming water lilies drifts from the marshes. These fragrances carry the weight of countless seasons, the accumulated memory of spring floods and autumn harvests, of pharaohs and common folk who have all breathed this same air beside this same eternal river. A scribe sits cross-legged in the shade of his reed shelter, his papyrus and writing implements set aside for now. Instead, he simply watches the water flow past, each ripple carrying with it the stories of the land upstream, tales of villages and temples, of ceremonies and celebrations, of the endless cycle of planting and harvesting that has sustained this civilization for countless generations. In this moment of perfect stillness, he feels connected to all of it, part of the great tapestry that the river weaves as it flows from the heart of Africa to the Mediterranean Sea. The Nile continues its ancient journey, patient and eternal, carrying not just water but the dreams and hopes of all who dwell along its banks. In this sacred hour of midday rest, when the sun reaches its highest point and all of life pauses to catch its breath, the river remembers. It remembers every season, every flood, every moment of peace like this one, when time itself seems to slow and the world rests in perfect golden stillness. The morning sun casts long, gentle shadows across the muddy banks of the Nile, where small bare feet have already begun to leave their delicate imprints in the soft earth. Here, where the great river curves lazily toward the east, a group of children has gathered as they have for countless mornings, drawn by the simple magic of water and mud and endless possibility. Little Nea, no more than 6 years old, crouches at the water's edge, her dark hair catching glints of sunlight as she carefully shapes a small lump of river clay between her palms. Her fingers work with the patient concentration that only children possess, rolling and smoothing until the clay becomes a tiny boat, complete with a small reed mast that she has broken from the tall grasses nearby. The boat is imperfect, lopsided, beautiful in its childlike simplicity. Nearby, her brother Kalimwesit and 2 neighbor children have discovered a different treasure. They wade knee-deep in the shallows, their tunics lifted high, searching for the smoothest stones and the most interesting shells that the river has deposited along its banks. Each discovery brings delighted exclamations that float across the water like music, their voices blending with the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. The Nile watches them with ancient patience, remembering. In these very waters, Egyptian children have played for 4,000 years. The river has seen pharaohs' sons and daughters splash in royal pools, watched farmers' children learn to swim by mimicking the movements of fish, observed countless young hands shaping clay into boats and animals and imaginary creatures. Young Nea places her finished boat carefully in the water, watching as the current catches it and begins to carry it downstream. She follows along the bank, walking carefully to avoid disturbing the other children's games, her eyes never leaving her small vessel as it bobs and spins in the gentle current. To her, this is not just a toy but a real ship, perhaps carrying precious cargo to distant Nubia or transporting messages to the great temples downstream. The other children have begun their own water games now. They take turns jumping from a small outcropping of rocks, creating satisfying splashes that send ripples across the calm surface. Their laughter rings pure and clear, echoing off the limestone cliffs that rise beyond the fertile banks. One boy demonstrates a particularly impressive belly flop, sending water cascading in all directions and earning applause from his companions. As the morning progresses, the children discover new entertainments. They begin collecting reed stems of different lengths, arranging them like a miniature forest along the muddy shore. Some become imaginary people in their games, others transform into boats, and still others are simply enjoyed for their own sake. The way they bend without breaking, the soft sound they make when moved through the water. The river has seen this exact game played with these exact materials by children whose great-great-grandparents are now dust. The reeds grow in the same places, offer the same flexible strength, make the same gentle sounds when disturbed. The continuity is profound and peaceful, a reminder that some joys remain unchanged despite the passage of centuries. A little girl with bright, curious eyes has discovered something wonderful. If she cups her hands just right and blows across the water trapped in her palms, she can create a soft, hollow sound like a tiny horn. Soon all the children are trying to master this technique, creating an impromptu orchestra of gentle water music that harmonizes with the natural sounds of the river. The sun climbs higher, warming their backs and shoulders as they play. Parents work in nearby fields, occasionally glancing over with fond smiles, content to let the children enjoy their morning freedom. The river provides natural boundaries for their games, deep enough to be interesting, shallow enough to be safe, with banks soft enough for comfortable sitting but firm enough to support their running feet. As midday approaches, some of the older children begin to help the younger ones gather their clay creations and read collections. Nothing is rushed. This is not a world governed by schedules and deadlines, but by the natural rhythm of river and sun and growing hunger. The toys that cannot be easily carried are left for the river to reclaim, becoming part of the endless cycle of creation and dissolution that has characterized this place for millennia. The children's voices gradually fade as they head toward home, their bare feet leaving fresh prints in the mud that will soon be smoothed away by the gentle lapping of wavelets. But their laughter seems to linger in the air, becoming part of the river's eternal song, another note in the endless symphony of human joy that has played along these banks since the world was young. The Nile flows on, carrying with it the memory of their games, their innocent delight in simple pleasures, their unconscious participation in one of humanity's oldest and most enduring pastimes, children at play beside the life-giving waters that have sustained their ancestors for countless generations. The sun hangs low in the western sky, casting long golden shadows across the village as you drift slowly past the baker's quarter. Here, where the narrow streets meet the riverbank, the air itself seems to shimmer with warmth and the most wonderful of aromas. You pause in your eternal journey, drawn by the gentle bustle of daily life unfolding along the muddy shore. Smoke rises from tall clay chimneys, carrying with it the deep, earthy scent of baking bread that mingles with the sweet smell of the river's edge. The baker's hearth has been burning since before dawn, its flames now settled into steady, glowing coals that radiate a comfortable heat through the thick stone walls. You can feel this warmth even from the water, a gentle embrace that speaks of home and nourishment. Women arrive in small groups, balancing wide baskets on their heads with the graceful ease of long practice. Their bare feet pad softly along the worn stone steps that lead from the street down to the baker's courtyard. In their baskets, golden grains of emmer wheat catch the afternoon light, each kernel representing weeks of careful tending in the fields beyond the village. The grain rustles softly as they walk, a whispered promise of the bread to come. The baker himself is a broad man with flour dusting his dark arms like fine river silt. His movements are unhurried and precise as he measures out portions of grain, his weathered hands gentle despite their strength. He greets each family by name, asking after children and grandparents, his voice warm with genuine care. This is more than commerce, it is the daily weaving of community bonds, as essential as the bread itself. Young boys work the grinding stones, their arms moving in steady rhythm as they crush the wheat into flour. The stones, worn smooth by countless generations, sing a low, grinding song that harmonizes with the crackling of the fire and the soft conversations of the waiting families. Dust motes dance in the shafts of sunlight that filter through the small windows, creating an almost magical atmosphere in the warm, dim space. You watch as the baker kneads great mounds of dough, his movements flowing like a dance passed down through generations. The dough yields under his hands, transforming from sticky mixture to smooth, elastic substance that will soon become sustenance. He shapes each loaf with care, some round like the sun, others long and narrow like reeds along your banks. Each family's bread receives its own small mark, a thumbprint, a simple pattern pressed with a wooden tool, so that when the baking is done, each loaf will return to its rightful home. The great clay ovens dominate the back wall of the bakery, their mouths glowing like gentle eyes in the dimness. The baker slides the shaped loaves onto long wooden paddles, then with practiced skill, places them deep within the oven's heated chambers. The bread disappears into the warm darkness, beginning its slow transformation from pale dough to golden sustenance. Children play quietly in the courtyard while their mothers wait, their laughter mixing with the adult conversations like music. They chase shadows along the stone walls and splash their feet in the shallow pools where the courtyard meets the river's edge. Their joy is infectious, and even the adults smile as they watch, reminded of their own childhood days spent in this very place. As the first loaves emerge from the ovens, steam rises from their golden crusts like incense offered to the gods. The aroma grows stronger now, rich and complex, carrying notes of grain and fire and the indefinable essence of home. The baker taps each loaf with his knuckles, listening for the hollow sound that tells him the bread is perfectly done. The sound echoes softly in the warm air, a gentle percussion that speaks of skill and patience rewarded. Families begin to depart as their bread cools on wooden racks, the loaves wrapped carefully in clean linen cloths. They walk slowly up the stone steps, savoring this moment of completion, of daily needs met through communal effort. Their voices fade gradually as they disappear into the village streets, carrying with them the promise of shared meals and satisfied hunger. The baker continues his work as the day grows longer, tending his fires and preparing for tomorrow's grain. Apprentices sweep flour from the floors and bank the coals for the night. The ovens will rest but remain warm, ready to spring back to life with tomorrow's dawn. You resume your journey as the first stars appear, carrying with you the memory of this timeless scene. The aroma of fresh bread lingers in the air long after the village disappears behind the next bend, a reminder of the simple, essential rhythms of human life that have played out along your banks for countless centuries. In the growing darkness, you can still feel the warmth of the baker's hearth, a gentle glow that speaks of community, nourishment, and the endless cycle of daily bread. The morning sun casts long golden fingers across the water, and I feel the gentle stirring of the papyrus reeds that have grown thick and tall along my muddy banks. The harvest season has arrived, and with it comes a ritual as old as the pyramids themselves, the careful gathering of these precious plants that will become the scrolls and boats that serve the people of Egypt. The workers arrive as the mist still clings to my surface, their bare feet making soft sounds against the wet earth. They move with the unhurried grace of those who understand the river's rhythms, carrying sharp bronze sickles that catch the early light like captured flames. There is no urgency in their movements, no harsh voices breaking the morning peace. They know that the papyrus has waited patiently through the growing season, and now it offers itself willingly to their gentle hands. The eldest among them, a man whose skin has been bronzed by countless dawns spent beside my waters, wades carefully into the shallows. The cool river swirls around his ankles, and I can feel his respectful touch as he examines the tall green stalks. These reeds stand proud and straight, some reaching twice the height of a man, their feathery tops swaying gently in the morning breeze like dancers greeting the sun. He selects his first reed with the care of a craftsman choosing the finest stone. The papyrus must be just right, not too young and tender, not too old and tough. His practiced eye knows exactly which stalks have reached that perfect moment of readiness. With a swift, clean cut near the base, he severs the reed, and I feel the plant release its hold on my riverbed without struggle, as if it too understands its purpose. The other workers follow his lead, spreading out along the marshy edges where the papyrus grows thickest. Their movements create gentle ripples that catch the strengthening sunlight, sending dancing patterns of light across my surface. The sound of cutting blades mingles with the soft splash of footsteps and the occasional call of an ibis overhead, creating a peaceful symphony that speaks of work done in harmony with nature. As they harvest, I remember all the uses these precious reeds will serve. In workshops along my banks, skilled craftsmen will slice the stalks into thin strips, laying them in careful cross-hatched patterns. They will press and dry these strips until they become the smooth, cream-colored sheets that will carry the words of scribes, the decrees of pharaohs, and the love letters of common people. The papyrus holds within its fibers not just the ability to preserve writing, but the very essence of communication itself. The workers bundle the cut reeds with practiced efficiency, tying them with strips of palm frond into manageable sheaves. Some of these bundles will become the hulls of boats, their natural buoyancy allowing fishermen to glide silently across my waters in search of the silver fish that dart between my currents. Others will be woven into baskets and mats, their hollow stems providing strength and flexibility that will last for generations. A young boy helps his father by carrying the smaller bundles to higher ground, his eyes bright with the pride of participating in this ancient work. His father shows him how to test each reed for quality, how to cut cleanly without damaging the root system that will send up new shoots in the seasons to come. This is not just harvesting, it is stewardship, a dance between taking and giving that has sustained both the river and its people for thousands of years. As the sun climbs higher, the workers pause to share water from clay jars and bread wrapped in large leaves. They sit in the shade of a sycamore tree whose roots drink deeply from my banks, their conversations soft and unhurried. They speak of their families, of the scribes who wait eagerly for fresh papyrus, of the boat builders whose skilled hands will transform these reeds into vessels of exploration and trade. The harvest continues through the peaceful morning, each worker moving at the gentle pace that the river itself teaches, never rushing, never forcing, always in rhythm with the natural world. The papyrus gives itself freely to their careful hands, and in return, they take only what is needed, leaving the youngest shoots and the strongest root systems to ensure next season's abundance. As the final bundle is tied and lifted from my waters, I feel a deep satisfaction in this exchange. The papyrus that grew from my fertile mud will carry forward the stories and knowledge of this great civilization. In every scroll that preserves a poem, in every boat that carries a family safely home, in every basket that holds a harvest, the memory of the Nile lives on, flowing like water through the endless stream of human endeavor. The sun hangs low in the western sky, painting the Nile's surface in molten gold as evening approaches. Along the eastern bank, where papyrus reeds whisper ancient secrets to the breeze, stands a modest shrine that has witnessed countless sunsets across the centuries. Its limestone walls, weathered smooth by time and touched by the gentle fingers of countless pilgrims, glow warmly in the fading light. The river feels the familiar stirring of devotion as three priests emerge from the shrine's shadowed interior. Their white linen robes catch the evening breeze, flowing like water itself as they move with practiced grace toward the water's edge. Each step is deliberate, reverent, part of a ritual as old as the dynasty itself. The youngest priest carries a bronze brazier, its contents glowing like captured starlight. Sweet smoke rises in delicate spirals, carrying the essence of frankincense and myrrh across the sacred space. Behind him, the elder priest holds a vessel of polished silver, its surface reflecting the sky's changing colors. Within it rests the evening's offering, lotus flowers gathered at dawn when their petals still held the night's dew, grains of the finest wheat from the season's harvest and drops of honey golden as the sun itself. The third priest carries only his voice, preparing to speak the words that have been spoken here for generations beyond counting. The Nile listens as they arrange themselves in the shallow water, their bare feet sinking gently into the soft mud that has nourished this land since time began. The river can feel their reverence flowing like an undercurrent, deeper than its own waters, connecting these mortal beings to something eternal and vast. The elder priest raises the silver vessel toward the dying sun, then lowers it slowly to the water's surface. His voice, weathered by years of prayer, begins the evening invocation in the ancient tongue. The words float across the water like music, each syllable a note in a song the river knows by heart. He speaks of gratitude for the day's blessings, of the life-giving flood that will come with the seasons turning, of the eternal cycle that connects all living things to the sacred flow. Incense smoke drifts lazily across the golden water, creating ghostly patterns that shift and dance in the gentle current. The scent mingles with the evening air, frankincense sharp and clean, myrrh rich and mysterious, creating an atmosphere that seems to bridge the earthly and the divine. The smoke carries prayers upward, while the river carries offerings downstream, a perfect communion between heaven and earth. As the ritual continues, the youngest priest scatters rose petals onto the water's surface. Each petal lands with the softest whisper, creating tiny ripples that spread outward in ever-widening circles. The Nile accepts each offering with gentle gratitude, feeling honored by this daily recognition of its sacred role in the rhythm of Egyptian life. The petals drift downstream like small boats carrying wishes, their pink and white surfaces catching the last rays of sunlight. The river remembers when this very shrine was built, stone, by hands guided by faith and reverence. It has watched generations of priests perform this same ritual, has felt the touch of countless offerings, has carried the prayers of thousands downstream toward the great delta where all waters eventually find their rest. Each evening offering becomes part of its eternal memory, woven into the current like golden threads in an infinite tapestry. A family of ibis birds stands silently among the reeds, their white plumage luminous in the golden hour. They too seem to understand the sacred nature of this moment, remaining still as statues while the ceremony unfolds. Even the fish beneath the surface swim more quietly, as if aware that something holy is taking place in the world above their liquid realm. The final prayer is spoken as the sun touches the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. The elder priest pours a portion of sacred oil upon the water, and it spreads across the surface in rainbow patterns, creating a brief moment of perfect beauty that seems to capture all the colors of sunset in one shimmering display. As the priests begin their journey back to the shrine, walking slowly through the shallow water, the Nile holds their offerings close. The lotus petals will travel far downstream, carrying their blessings to other shores. The sweet smoke will mingle with the evening mist that rises from the water. The prayers will become part of the eternal song that the river sings as it flows toward the sea. In this moment of perfect peace, as day surrenders to night and the ancient rhythm continues unchanged, the Nile feels deeply honored to be part of something so much larger than itself, the endless dance between the mortal and the eternal, played out each evening in offerings of gratitude and love. The ancient Nile moves with the rhythm of eternity, its waters carrying the whispered songs of countless generations. Here, where the papyrus reeds sway in gentle clusters along the muddy banks, a lone figure sits cross-legged on a smooth stone worn smooth by decades of river kisses. His name is Amenemheb, though the river knows him simply as the one who speaks its language through wood and breath. The wooden flute rests easily between his weathered fingers, carved from the heartwood of a sycamore tree that once stood sentinel beside these very waters. The instrument itself holds memory the tree's seasons of growth, its years of shade cast over traveling merchants, the countless sunrise prayers it witnessed from temple priests who passed beneath its branches. Now transformed into music, it continues its sacred purpose along the Nile's eternal journey. Amenemheb draws a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the warm desert air fill his lungs. The sound that emerges from the flute is barely a whisper, at first a single, pure note that seems to rise like mist from the river itself. The tone wavers gently, not from uncertainty, but with the natural breath of life, like wind through palm fronds or the soft lapping of water against a lotus stem. The melody begins simply, following the ancient modes passed down from his grandfather's grandfather, yet each phrase carries Amenemheb's own heart within it. The notes flow like the river itself, sometimes gathering speed in playful runs that dance like sunlight on water, sometimes settling into deep, contemplative passages that mirror the Nile's mysterious depths. There is no hurry in this music, no destination other than the present moment where breath becomes sound and sound becomes prayer. A family of ibis, their white feathers touched with gold by the late afternoon sun, pause in their patient fishing to listen. They stand motionless in the shallows, their long beaks pointing downstream as if conducting this riverside symphony. Even the fish seem to gather in the calm pools, their silver forms creating gentle ripples that catch and scatter the musician's melodies across the water's surface. The papyrus reeds become his accompaniment, their hollow stems humming softly in the breeze. Each gust of wind creates a subtle harmony, some reeds singing higher notes, others providing a deeper, more resonant foundation. The sound reminds Amenemheb of the great pipe organs in distant temples, where priests blow air through bronze tubes to honor the gods. Here, nature herself provides the same sacred music, requiring no human construction, only the willingness to listen. As his melody continues, the river seems to respond with its own voice. The water's constant murmur shifts subtly, as if the Nile is humming along with the flute's gentle song. Where the current meets a cluster of rocks, small cascades create tiny percussive notes, droplets falling back into the main flow with delicate splashes that arrive in perfect rhythm with Amenemheb's breathing. A young boy herding goats along the far bank stops to listen, his flock gathering around him like an audience. The goats, usually restless and eager to move toward the next patch of sweet grass, stand quietly, their bells silent for once. Even they seem to understand that something sacred is unfolding in this moment where human artistry meets the eternal song of the river. The sun begins its gentle descent toward the western horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and amber. The light catches the surface of the Nile, transforming it into a ribbon of liquid gold that seems to carry the music downstream toward distant villages and ancient temples. Somewhere along this same river, other musicians may be playing their evening songs, their melodies joining this one in an invisible network of sound that spans the length of Egypt. Amenemheb's fingers move without conscious thought now, guided by decades of practice and the deeper wisdom that comes from truly listening to the world around him. His melody begins to slow, the intervals between notes growing longer, allowing space for the river's own voice to fill the silence. The song becomes a conversation, flute and water, breath and current, human heart and eternal flow. As the last note fades into the gathering dusk, it doesn't truly end, but rather dissolves into the river's constant song. The reeds continue their gentle susurrus, the water maintains its patient murmur, and somewhere in the distance, a night bird adds its own voice to the eternal chorus. Amenemheb sits quietly for a long moment, his flute resting in his lap, listening to the music that continues long after human breath has ceased. The Nile flows on, carrying within its depths the memory of this perfect harmony, musician and river, sound and silence, the temporary and the eternal joined in one seamless, ever-flowing song. The sun begins its gentle descent toward the western horizon, painting the sky in layers of amber and rose. Along the ancient Nile, the day's rhythms are shifting into evening's quiet embrace. The river's surface transforms into a living mirror, catching and holding the golden light like precious metal melted and spread across the water. You can hear the soft splash of oars as the fishing boats make their way back to shore. The papyrus boats move with practiced ease, their crews silhouetted against the glowing sky. Each vessel carries the day's catch, silver fish that glimmer in woven baskets, their scales reflecting the sunset's warm glow. The fishermen's voices carry across the water, calling gentle greetings to one another as they navigate the familiar channels between the reeds. On the eastern bank, families begin to gather. Children run barefoot through the soft mud at the water's edge, their laughter mixing with the evening breeze that rustles through the date palms. Mothers spread woven mats on the ground while fathers secure the day's work, nets hung to dry, tools cleaned and set aside for tomorrow. The scent of bread baking in clay ovens drifts from the nearby village, mingling with the sweet fragrance of lotus blossoms that dot the shallow waters. The river remembers this moment as it has remembered countless others. For thousands of years, families have gathered here at sunset to watch the day surrender to night. The Nile carries these memories in its gentle current, the voices of ancient pharaohs who once sailed these waters, the songs of farmers celebrating successful harvests, the prayers of pilgrims who found peace along its banks. An elderly fisherman guides his boat toward a wooden dock that extends into the calm water. His movements are unhurried, economical, shaped by decades of working with the river's moods. He secures his vessel with practiced hands, then lifts his catch onto the weathered planks. A young boy, perhaps his grandson, waits eagerly to help carry the baskets home. Their quiet conversation joins the evening's symphony, the gentle lapping of water against the shore, the distant call of a heron, the whisper of wind through the papyrus stalks. The sun sinks lower, and the golden light deepens to copper and bronze. The river's surface becomes increasingly still, disturbed only by the occasional ripple from a returning boat or the gentle wake of a duck swimming between the reeds. Reflections grow more perfect in the calm water. Palm trees appear to grow downward into golden depths, and the first evening stars begin to shimmer on the liquid surface. A woman sits near the water's edge, her baby sleeping peacefully in her arms. She hums an ancient lullaby, one her own mother sang to her beside this same river. The melody is simple, timeless, carrying the weight of generations. Other mothers have sat here before her, watching the sun set while their children dozed in their arms, adding their own voices to the river's endless song of memory. Young couples walk hand in hand along the bank, their bare feet making soft impressions in the fertile mud. They pause to watch the sun's reflection dance on the water, content in the quiet beauty of the moment. Their whispered conversations become part of the evening's gentle chorus, joining the soft sounds of settling birds and the distant murmur of the village preparing for night. The fishing boats have all returned now, pulled up onto the muddy shore or tied securely to wooden posts. The fishermen gather their gear with the satisfaction of another successful day. Children help their fathers sort the catch, while mothers praise the size of particular fish, already planning tomorrow's meals. The community moves with the easy rhythm of people who have lived by the river's calendar for generations. As the sun touches the horizon, the entire sky becomes a canvas of gold and rose and deep amber. The Nile reflects this glory perfectly, doubling the beauty, creating a world where sky and water merge in luminous harmony. The air grows cooler, bringing relief from the day's heat, and the evening breeze carries the promise of peaceful rest. The moment stretches, timeless and perfect. The river flows on as it always has, carrying the day's memories toward the sea, while new memories form along its banks. Families begin to gather their mats and baskets, children are called in for evening meals, and the gentle sounds of a community settling into night begin to replace the day's activities. The sun disappears behind the western hills, leaving behind a sky painted in the softest shades of purple and gold. The river continues its eternal journey, carrying with it the reflection of this perfect evening, adding it to the countless others it holds in its ancient memory. As the last traces of daylight fade from the western horizon, the Great Nile begins its transformation into something altogether more mysterious. The waters that sparkled gold and amber just moments before now reflect the deepening indigo of the desert sky, and along the riverbank, shadows lengthen and merge into pools of gentle darkness. But not everyone seeks the comfort of home as night approaches. Along this ancient stretch of the Nile, where the river curves lazily between stands of papyrus and date palms, a small group of fishermen prepares for their most sacred work. These are the night fishers, keepers of an ancient tradition passed down through countless generations, and they understand secrets of the river that the daylight hours cannot reveal. Watch as they emerge from their simple reed shelters, moving with the quiet confidence of those who know the water's every mood. Their boats are modest affairs, woven from papyrus and sealed with pitch, designed not for speed but for stealth and stability in the gentle currents. Each fisherman carries a torch, carefully prepared with oils and resins that will burn bright and clean throughout the long night ahead. The eldest among them, his weathered hands steady despite his years, lights the first torch. The flame catches and dances, casting warm orange light across the water's surface. One by one, the other fishers follow suit, until half a dozen golden beacons bob gently on the dark river, like fallen stars come to rest on the Nile's embrace. Listen to the soft splash of their oars as they push away from shore. There is no hurry in their movements, no urgency in their strokes. These men know that the night river demands patience, respect, and a willingness to move in harmony with currents that have flowed unchanged since the time of the pharaohs. As they drift deeper into the river's heart, the torchlight creates small islands of warmth in the gathering darkness. The flames reflect and shimmer on the water's surface, sending ripples of gold dancing outward in ever-widening circles. And beneath the surface, drawn by this ancient magic, the night fish begin to gather. The Nile perch rise first, their silver scales catching the torchlight as they circle in lazy spirals below the boats. Then come the smaller fish, darting and weaving in schools that seem to pulse and breathe with a life all their own. The fishermen watch and wait, their nets ready but unhurried, understanding that the river will provide in its own time. Above them, the desert sky begins to reveal its own treasures. One by one, the stars emerge from the deepening darkness, first the brightest companions, then the fainter points of light that form the ancient patterns their ancestors knew by heart. The constellation of Orion stretches across the southern sky, while the Great Bear wheels slowly overhead, eternal guardians of the night fisher's vigil. A gentle breeze stirs the surface of the water, carrying with it the scents of lotus blossoms and river mud, of distant cooking fires and the sweet fragrance of jasmine growing wild along the banks. The air is soft and warm, holding the day's heat like a gentle embrace, perfect for this patient work that unfolds in rhythm with the river's ancient heartbeat. The fishermen barely speak, communicating instead through glances and subtle gestures learned over years of shared labor. When one spots a promising school of fish, he signals to his companions with a slight turn of his torch. When the net is ready to cast, a gentle nod passes between them like a prayer. And when the net finally flies, it does so with grace and purpose, spreading wide before settling into the water with barely a whisper. The torchlight reveals the silver flash of fish as they move beneath the surface, and the fishermen wait with infinite patience for the right moment to draw their catch home. This is the way it has been for 3,000 years along this stretch of the Nile. The same patient rituals, the same gentle partnership between human hands and the river's endless generosity. The night fishers are part of something larger than themselves, part of the great story that the Nile has been telling since the dawn of time. As the night deepens around them, their torches continue to burn bright and steady, beacons of human presence in the vast darkness of the desert night. The river carries them safely through its gentle currents, a trusted companion that knows every stone and sandbar, every hidden channel and quiet bay. And high above, the stars wheel in their eternal dance, blessing this ancient work with light that has guided fishermen along the Nile since the first boats pushed away from shore, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of those who trust in the river's endless, flowing memory. As the golden sun begins its gentle descent toward the western horizon, casting long shadows across the sacred precinct of Karnak, a transformation begins to unfold along the banks of the eternal Nile. The great river, which has witnessed countless centuries of devotion, prepares to receive the most sacred gift of each passing day, the evening song of the temple priests. The air grows softer as twilight approaches, carrying with it the sweet fragrance of frankincense and myrrh that drifts from the temple courtyards. Within the massive stone walls, where hieroglyphs tell stories older than memory, the priests have begun their ancient ritual. Their voices rise in harmonious chant, each note carefully placed like precious stones in a pharaoh's crown, creating a melody that seems to emerge from the very heart of Egypt itself. The Nile slows its eternal flow, as if pausing to listen more intently to these sacred sounds. Along its muddy banks, the papyrus reeds sway gently in the evening breeze, their movements keeping time with the rhythmic prayers that echo across the water. Even the sacred ibis, those elegant white birds so beloved by the god Thoth, stand motionless in the shallows, their heads tilted as though they too are drawn into this moment of divine communion. From the great hypostyle hall, where 134 massive columns reach toward the heavens like stone forests, the chanting grows stronger. The priests, dressed in their finest linen robes bleached white as moonlight, move in slow procession through the sacred spaces. Their bare feet whisper against the worn stone floors, polished smooth by generations of faithful servants who have walked these same paths in devotion to the gods. The oil lamps begin to flicker to life throughout the temple complex, each flame a tiny beacon against the approaching darkness. From the river's perspective, these lights appear like earthbound stars, scattered across the sacred landscape in patterns that mirror the constellations beginning to emerge in the deepening sky above. The temple windows glow with warm, amber light, creating rectangles of illumination that dance and waver as the lamp flames respond to the gentle evening air. As the chanting continues, the very stones of the temple seem to absorb these sacred words, holding them within their ancient hearts. The massive pillars, carved with the images of lotus flowers and papyrus blossoms, appear to pulse gently in the lamplight, as if breathing along with the rhythm of the prayers. The Nile recognizes this eternal cycle. These same words have been spoken here for countless generations, creating an unbroken chain of devotion that stretches back through the mists of time. The priests' voices weave together in complex harmonies, some singing the deeper bass notes that seem to rumble up from the earth itself, while others carry the higher melodies that spiral upward like incense smoke. Their words, ancient even when the pyramids were young, speak of gratitude for the day's blessings, of reverence for the gods who govern the cycles of flood and harvest, and of prayers for the peaceful journey of Ra through the underworld during the hours of darkness. Along the riverbank, the evening fishermen pause in their preparations, their nets temporarily forgotten as they listen to the sacred music drifting across the water. Even they, simple men who spend their days wresting sustenance from the river's depths, understand the importance of this moment. They bow their heads in quiet respect, knowing that these prayers are offered not just for the priests themselves, but for all who depend upon the Nile's generous gifts. The water itself seems to carry these sacred sounds, spreading them along its banks like liquid music. Crocodiles rest motionless on the muddy shores, their ancient eyes reflecting the temple lights. Water buffalo stand knee-deep in the shallows, their massive heads raised as if they too are listening to this evening symphony of faith. As full darkness approaches, the chanting reaches its crescendo before gradually fading to a whisper. The priests complete their final prayers, their voices blending with the gentle lapping of water against the temple steps. One by one, the oil lamps are carefully tended, their flames adjusted to burn steadily through the night, maintaining the sacred light that connects earth to heaven. The Nile continues its eternal journey northward, carrying with it the memory of this evening's prayers, just as it has carried the hopes and dreams of Egypt for millennia beyond counting. In the peaceful darkness, with only the soft sound of water flowing over ancient stones and the distant call of night birds, the temple settles into tranquil rest, knowing that tomorrow will bring another sunset, another evening song, another moment of perfect communion between the mortal and the divine. The night air along the Nile carries the faint scent of jasmine and wet earth, a fragrance that has drifted across these waters for countless millennia. Above, the Egyptian sky unfolds like a vast tapestry of midnight blue, unmarred by clouds, stretching endlessly from horizon to horizon. Here, where the desert meets the life-giving river, the stars shine with an ancient clarity that speaks of timeless wisdom. The Nile flows with quiet purpose beneath this celestial canopy, its surface smooth as polished obsidian, perfectly still save for the gentlest of currents. Each star above finds its twin in the water below, creating a second sky that ripples softly with the river's movement. Orion hangs low in the west, his belt of three bright jewels reflected in the dark mirror of the water, while the Great Bear watches from the north, eternal and patient. Along the eastern bank, date palms stand in silhouette against the starlight, their fronds moving with barely perceptible grace in the desert breeze. The wind whispers through the palm leaves with a sound like distant rain, a gentle susurration that has lullabied this land since the time of the pharaohs. Between the trees, mud brick houses sleep peacefully, their flat rooftops bathed in silver light, their inhabitants lost in dreams as old as civilization itself. The river remembers nights like this stretching back through the ages. It has reflected the same constellations for thousands upon thousands of years. Watch them wheel overhead in their eternal dance while empires rose and fell along its banks. The stars that guided ancient navigators still shine tonight, unchanged, unwavering, their light traveling across impossible distances to touch this sacred water. A night heron calls softly from somewhere among the reeds, a low, haunting note that carries across the water and fades into silence. The bird stands motionless in the shallows, a dark silhouette against the star-reflected surface, patient as stone, waiting for the silver flash of fish beneath the surface. The reeds whisper around it, their tall stems swaying like gentle prayers in the night breeze. The Nile contemplates the vastness spread above and feels its own place in the great turning of seasons and years. Winter stars give way to spring constellations, which yield in turn to the hot, bright stars of summer, then the harvest stars of autumn. The river has witnessed this cosmic dance through countless cycles, carrying the gift of life through each season, constant as the wheeling heavens above. In the distance, a village dog barks once and falls silent. A night-blooming lotus opens its petals somewhere upstream, releasing its sweet perfume into the cooling air. These small sounds and scents are part of the river's memory too, woven into the vast tapestry of nights it has known. Each moment is precious, each breath of wind across the water, a reminder of the endless continuity that flows through all things. The southern horizon glows faintly with the last warmth of day, a barely visible band of deep purple that gradually gives way to the star-drunk darkness above. Soon even this will fade, leaving only the pure light of the stars and their perfect reflections in the water. The Nile has watched this transition countless times, has felt the earth's heat dissipate into the desert night, has cooled and calmed under the touch of starlight. A gentle fish jumps somewhere near the western bank, its splash barely audible, sending concentric rings across the reflected stars. The ripples spread outward slowly, distorting the celestial mirror for just a moment before the surface settles back into perfect stillness. The night heron shifts slightly but does not strike. Time moves like honey here, sweet and slow. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a river of light, and the earthbound river below recognizes its cosmic cousin. Both flow through darkness toward distant destinations. Both carry the essence of creation in their depths. The Nile understands its role in this greater pattern, this eternal cycle of water and star, earth and sky, season and year. As the night deepens, a profound peace settles over the water. The palm fronds continue their gentle dance, the stars burn with steady fire, and the river flows on through darkness toward the dawn, carrying within its depths the memory of all the starlit nights that have come before and the promise of all those yet to come. In this moment, past and future converge in the eternal now of flowing water beneath the endless sky. The moon hangs like a silver coin above the Nile, casting gentle ribbons of light across the water's surface. Along the eastern bank, where the great temple of Khnum stands in quiet majesty, a lone figure moves with the unhurried grace of one who knows every stone, every shadow, every whisper of the night wind. Amenhotep has walked this path for 20 years, his sandaled feet knowing each worn step along the temple's perimeter. The smooth limestone feels cool beneath his soles as he moves past the towering columns, their hieroglyphs barely visible in the moonlight, yet somehow seeming to glow with ancient wisdom. His bronze spear catches the occasional glint of starlight, but it is more ceremonial than necessary. True danger rarely comes to this sacred place, where the river god's protection runs as deep as the Nile itself. The guard pauses at the corner where the temple wall meets the water's edge. Here, palm fronds rustle softly overhead, their gentle scratching like whispered prayers in an unknown tongue. The river laps quietly against the stone embankment, each small wave carrying with it the memory of its long journey from the southern cataracts. Amenhotep breathes deeply, filling his lungs with the cool night air that carries scents of papyrus and water lotus, of temple incense that still lingers from the evening offerings, and the rich earth that the Nile has blessed for countless generations. A night heron calls from somewhere across the water, its cry echoing briefly before being absorbed by the vast darkness. The sound brings a small smile to the guard's weathered face. These creatures have been his companions through so many quiet nights, their presence a reassurance that all remains as it should be. He continues his slow circuit, his movements as rhythmic and predictable as the river's own eternal flow. Behind him, the temple sleeps. The priests rest in their chambers, their dreams perhaps filled with the day's rituals and the gentle murmur of prayers offered to Khnum, the ram-headed god who shapes life on his potter's wheel. In the inner sanctuary, oil lamps flicker before the sacred statue, their flames dancing like tiny spirits keeping their own faithful watch. But out here, beneath the star-scattered sky, it is Amenhotep alone who maintains the vigil, as his father did before him and his father's father before that. The river seems to recognize his devotion. As he walks, small fish occasionally break the surface near the bank, their silver forms catching moonlight for just an instant before disappearing back into the dark water. It is as if the Nile itself acknowledges his presence, offering these small gifts of beauty in return for his steadfast service. The water whispers against the stones, speaking in the ancient language that only the river truly knows, telling stories of pharaohs and farmers, of floods and harvests, of the eternal cycle that connects all life along its banks. Crickets begin their nightly symphony from the reeds, their chirping creating a gentle percussion that mingles with the soft splash of water and the distant rustle of palm fronds. An owl calls from somewhere in the darkness, and another answers from across the river. These are the sounds that Amenhotep knows better than any human voice, the nocturnal chorus that has serenaded his steps for 2 decades of faithful nights. As he rounds the northern corner of the temple complex, the guard pauses to adjust the small oil lamp that hangs from his belt. Its warm glow creates a tiny circle of golden light that moves with him like a faithful companion. In this gentle radiance, he can see the worn path more clearly, can note that the jasmine planted by the temple entrance is beginning to bloom, its white flowers barely visible but already releasing their sweet fragrance into the night air. The hours pass peacefully, marked only by the slow wheel of stars overhead and the gradual shift of moonlight across the temple walls. Amenhotep's rounds are unhurried, each circuit allowing him time to appreciate the subtle beauty of this sacred place where he has dedicated his life to service. The river god watches over him as surely as he watches over the temple, creating an unbroken circle of protection and devotion that has endured for generations beyond counting. As dawn still lies hours away, the faithful guardian continues his gentle patrol, his presence a bridge between the sleeping temple and the eternal river, ensuring that all remains safe and peaceful beneath the vast, star-filled sky. The Nile flows on, carrying its ancient memories, grateful for the quiet dedication of those who serve along its sacred banks. The moon hangs full and luminous above the Nile, casting silver ribbons across the water's surface as the great river flows through the gentle darkness. Along its banks, the ancient land has settled into peaceful slumber. Palm fronds whisper soft lullabies in the warm night breeze, and the last fishing boats have been drawn safely onto shore, their nets folded and waiting for tomorrow's dawn. In this sacred hour between day and night, the river enters its deepest reverie. The water moves with an even gentler rhythm now, unhurried and contemplative, as if the Nile itself is settling into dreams. Each ripple carries with it the memories of countless souls who have walked these shores, knelt at these waters, and found sustenance in the river's endless generosity. The current whispers of a young scribe from Memphis, who once sat on these very banks 3,000 years ago, mixing his ink with river water as he carefully inscribed hieroglyphs onto papyrus scrolls. His reed pen moved with practiced grace, recording the harvest yields and the flooding schedules, documenting the rhythm of life that the river had orchestrated for generations beyond counting. In the river's memory, his gentle concentration still lingers, a warm presence in the flow. Further along, the water remembers a grandmother from a village near Aswan, who brought her grandson to the river's edge each morning to collect the clay-rich silt for their pottery. Her weathered hands showed the boy how to feel for just the right consistency, how to know when the river was offering its finest gifts. Her patient voice still echoes in the current song, teaching lessons of patience and gratitude that have been passed down like precious stones from hand to hand. The river dreams too of the great temples that have watched over its banks for millennia. At Karnak, the massive columns still stand sentinel in the moonlight, their carved surfaces telling stories of pharaohs and gods, of festivals and ceremonies that celebrated the river's life-giving power. The Nile remembers the priests who performed dawn rituals at the water's edge, offering prayers of thanksgiving as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and rose. As the water flows past the Valley of the Kings, it carries the memory of builders and artisans who worked with quiet dedication in the desert heat, their hands shaping eternal monuments from the golden limestone. During their rest periods, they would come to the river's edge, cupping the cool water in their palms, feeling restored by its ancient blessing. The river holds their satisfaction close, the deep contentment of work well done and lives lived with purpose. In the gentle eddies and quiet pools, the Nile dreams of farmers whose patient labor has fed civilizations. It remembers the careful planting in the fertile mud left by countless floods, the tender green shoots pushing through the earth, and the golden grain that bowed heavy in the harvest wind. Each successful season added another layer to the river's vast storehouse of memories, another testament to the partnership between human hands and nature's abundance. The water flows past sleeping villages where children dream their own dreams, safe in mud brick houses that have sheltered families for generations. The river knows these little ones too, remembers their laughter during the day as they played at the water's edge, their small feet splashing in the shallows while their mothers washed clothes nearby. Their joy becomes part of the river's eternal song, notes of pure happiness woven into the current's endless melody. As dawn approaches, still hours away, the Nile continues its unhurried journey toward the Mediterranean Sea. In its depths, it carries not just water and silt, but the accumulated wisdom and love of all who have been touched by its presence. Every prayer whispered at its banks, every moment of wonder at its beauty, every life sustained by its generosity becomes part of the river's magnificent dream. The current grows even softer now, almost imperceptibly gentle, as if the great river is tucking the sleeping land into bed with the tenderness of an ancient mother. The water knows that tomorrow will bring new stories, new memories to gather and hold. But for now, in this peaceful hour, the Nile simply flows and dreams, carrying the hopes and love of countless generations toward the vast, embracing sea. In this sacred flow, time moves differently. Past and present merge like streams joining the main current, and the river's memory becomes a living tapestry of human experience, woven together by waters that have never ceased their patient, life-giving journey. The Nile dreams, and in its dreaming, all the stories become one eternal story of connection, continuity, and the enduring power of gentle, persistent love. The great river stirs gently in the pre-dawn darkness, its surface catching the first whispers of light that dance across the eastern horizon. For thousands upon thousands of years, this moment has repeated itself, this quiet transition from night to day, this ancient rhythm that beats like a heart through the land of Egypt. The Nile remembers them all, these countless dawns, each one carrying its own subtle beauty, its own promise of renewal. The water moves with the patience of eternity itself, carrying within its depths the memories of pharaohs and farmers, of children's laughter echoing from muddy banks, and the gentle prayers of fishermen casting their nets into the morning calm. Each ripple holds a story, each current bears witness to the endless procession of human dreams that have flourished along these sacred shores. In the growing light, the river can see its reflection stretching endlessly in both directions, northward toward the fertile delta, where it spreads like fingers into the Mediterranean, southward toward the distant cataracts, where it tumbles over ancient stones worn smooth by its eternal passage. This is more than water flowing through sand and stone. This is the very lifeblood of a civilization, the thread that weaves together past and present in one continuous, shimmering tapestry. The papyrus reeds along the banks begin to whisper in the gentle morning breeze, their voices joining the river's quiet song. They too are keepers of memory, these tall sentinels that have watched over the Nile's journey for millennia. They remember the great ships of cedar wood that once sailed these waters, loaded with gold and incense, their white sails billowing against azure skies. They remember the smaller boats of the fishermen, the reed vessels of children at play, the ceremonial barges that carried kings to their final rest. As the sun climbs higher, painting the water in shades of gold and amber, the river feels the familiar warmth spreading across its surface. This warmth is more than temperature. It is the embrace of life itself, the energy that transforms water into sustenance, that makes the desert bloom, that turns barren earth into fields of grain that sway like green seas in the wind. Along the banks, the first stirrings of daily life begin to emerge. A heron steps delicately through the shallows, its reflection creating perfect symmetry in the still water. Somewhere in the distance, a village awakens, and the river can sense the gentle activity beginning, the drawing of water in clay jars, the washing of linens, the quiet conversations of people who know that their lives are blessed by this eternal flow. The Nile has witnessed the rise and fall of dynasties, has seen stones cut and raised into monuments that touch the sky, has carried the boats of explorers and conquerors, merchants and pilgrims. Yet through all these grand passages of history, it has never forgotten the simple daily miracles, the seed that sprouts in rich silt, the child who learns to swim in gentle shallows, the couple who walks hand in hand along its banks at sunset, their footprints joining millions of others in the soft earth. The water continues its ancient journey, unhurried and sure, carrying nutrients and minerals from the heart of Africa to the waiting fields of Egypt. This is the river's greatest gift, not just the water itself, but the promise it represents, the certainty that no matter what changes may come to the world above, this flow will continue, this generosity will endure. As the morning light grows stronger, the river feels the gratitude of all the life it sustains. The crocodiles basking on distant sandbanks, the fish swimming in schools through the deeper channels, the birds that nest in the reeds, the people in their villages who wake each day knowing that water will flow from their wells, that their crops will grow, that life will continue in the abundance that only the Nile can provide. The sun is fully risen now, and the water sparkles like scattered diamonds across its vast surface. Another day begins along the eternal Nile, another chapter in the endless story that flows from source to sea. The river carries forward not just water, but hope itself, the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that some things in this world remain constant, that some gifts are given freely and forever. And in this moment of perfect morning peace, the great river continues its journey, as it has for millions of years, as it will for millions more. The eternal flow moves on, gentle and sure, carrying its precious cargo of life and memory toward the endless sea, while along its banks, the people of Egypt wake to another day blessed by the timeless generosity of their ancient, beloved Nile. The current flows on, peaceful and eternal forever.